Welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. This episode contains themes around grief, death, and dying. If you feel like that might be triggering for you, maybe come back to another episode. Thanks so much for listening. Welcome to Your Yes Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello, and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about two really important things for you to be aware of as someone with a high level of empathy and compassion. The first is how and why to shift your emotional state. And the second is how to prevent an energetic merge. I'll explain what all of that means as we get going. If you listened to the last episode of Your Yes Filled Life, which was published on August 12th, I was talking about how to trust your intuition. And as I sit here today, recording in September, I am just extraordinarily grateful that I did follow that intuition. If you haven't listened to that episode, invitation to go back and have a listen. I'll link it here in the show notes. And if you did listen, I'm going to just move the story along. My dad died on August 16th, 4 days after the recording of that episode. And I am just extraordinarily grateful that I trusted my intuition so that I could be with him. My mom, my sister, and I were with him during those last moments of his life. And that is something for which I am going to be eternally grateful to have gotten to share. And I'm going to be dropping in as time passes with a lot of the learning that's happened, because let me tell you what, I have learned so much about empathy and compassion and the ways in which it can be a gift and the ways in which it can be a distortion through the process of navigating my dad's illness, the last months of his life, the last days of his life, and ultimately his death and funeral, which took place last week. So I decided to come travel to Cleveland, Ohio. I'm in a tiny town called Chagrin Falls, staying with my friend Megan, who I met at a retreat. Now, I've mentioned my friends Erin and Megan before on the podcast. We all met at a retreat in Boca Raton, Florida in 2022. And since that retreat, the three of us have spoken almost every day since. And I'm just extraordinarily grateful for the connection that we made at that retreat. And I'm hosting a retreat coming up in September. September 24th through 28th is the Energetic Mastery Retreat in Beaverton, Oregon. And you never know, you might end up coming to that retreat and meeting your new best friends, just like what happened to Erin and Megan and I at that retreat in Boca Raton. The topic on today's podcast has come from learnings that I've had over the past several weeks that I'm now more certain of than ever. These are not new things that I'm talking about today, but they're things that I am more certain of than ever before. So let's dive in. When it comes to shifting your emotional state, there can sometimes be a feeling of almost guilt or disloyalty if you're shifting your emotional state after or around a difficult situation, especially when there's other people involved. And I know that this is something that came up for me right after my dad died. Now, he was living in a retirement community in downtown Madison with my mom. And so I had the opportunity to be around a lot of people immediately following his passing. And it was really interesting and instructive. So, when we talk about being willing to shift emotional states, let me change the context for you. I love changing the context of things because sometimes it makes it easier to understand. So, let's pretend that there are two kids on the playground and they're at recess, they're each playing. Both of them happen to fall and scrape their knee. Both kids are a little bit teary. They're a little bit hurt, but not injured, if that makes sense. And they go inside to the school nurse. Kid A gets cleaned up, gets his bandage on, wipes his tears, and goes outside and continues to play for the rest of recess. Maybe his knee hurts a little bit, maybe it doesn't, but he's not going to pay attention to it. Instead, he's going to pay attention to his friends and to the fun that's possible at recess. And ultimately, he goes on to have a pretty good day. Kid B is really, really insistent on making sure that everyone knows how badly he was hurt. And kid B continues to push on the sore knee to make it bleed through the band-aid and then lifts the band-aid to see it. And it really does continue to hurt because he's messing with it. And also, if anyone walks by him, kid B continues to talk about how much the skinned knee hurt at recess. Kid B never does end up back out on the playground for recess. And it's disappointing to kid B when the rest of the children come in from recess because people are noticing that he had a skin knee and a band-aid and kid A also had a skin knee and a band-aid, but kid A comes in all, puffing and ready for a drink of water after recess because kid A got to play. Kid B didn't get to play. Kid B was insistent upon making sure everyone knew how bad he felt. And guess what happened in the process? Kid B continued to feel bad and maybe even began to feel worse and worse and worse because now not only is he experiencing the skinned knee and the feelings that go along with that, but now kid B is also missing out on friend time and he's missing out on fun. The same thing happens to us. So if I was kid B in this situation, I would have been talking to everybody about how sad I was when my dad died, about how awful it had been, but none of that was true. I felt like it was truly one of the most beautiful passings I've ever heard about. And I am very sad to not be with my dad in the physical, but my belief system is that now he's part of the bigger energy around all of us. And so my belief system is that even though my dad has passed from physical form, my dad is not gone. And so while I absolutely 100% miss him in his physical form, I'm also not without him. And yes, I do experience the same grief that other people experience, but I'm not willing to wallow in it. And that was really challenging for some of the people that I came across immediately following my dad's death. There was one woman, I'm going to call her Gloria. That's not her real name. I don't even know anybody by that name that lives in Madison. So that's really not her name. But let's just call her Gloria. This is a woman who I had smiled at for the previous 3 weeks that I'd been living in Madison, but hadn't really had a conversation with. I knew that she was friends with my parents, but that day, as soon as she found out my dad had passed, she decided to speak to me. And we walked together through the hallway and then rode up in an elevator together. And she was very anxious to talk to me because she wanted to talk to me about how terrible the next 3 to 5 years were going to be as I navigated the death of my father and as my mom navigated the death of her husband. So this woman followed me into my mom's apartment and told my mom the same thing. Now, this woman meant well. What she's doing and saying is coming from a loving place of wanting to form a relationship around this topic. The problem is that she is behaving as kid B the kid who continued to push on the sore knee and tell everybody how bad it is. And when we do that, when we focus on how bad something feels, we inevitably will attract more of that in our lives. And so I quickly excused myself from that conversation and went on to shift my emotional state because I didn't need or want to be told how bad the next 3 to 5 years are going to be. I just don't believe that that is true. And my belief system is that we each have a choice to make, and that if we are willing to feel better, we can. But the trick is you have to be willing to feel better. If you are kid B and you're pushing on the band-aid and you're telling everybody how bad it is, it's going to be very difficult and slow for you to feel better. If you are kid A and you acknowledge the pain and you're like, yep, that hurt. Now let's go have some fun. It's amazing how quickly you can shift your energy, even with the most difficult emotions like grief. When we look at the vibrational scale of the emotional vibration, let's say by Abraham Hicks, grief is one of the lowest vibrational emotions there is, and followed quickly by despair. Despair is slightly lower. When we look at the map of consciousness, the map of consciousness also lists grief as one of the lowest vibrational emotions. And what happens for people is they see this low vibrational emotion, they get scared of it, they think they have to feel it and wallow in it, and they get stuck there. You don't want to or have to get stuck in those lower level emotions. It is important for you to feel your way through each emotion to its completion, but that doesn't mean you have to suffer from it. That doesn't mean that you have to make yourself stay in that lower vibrational state, which Kid B, who continued to push on the band-aid, Kid B was doing that. Gloria, who followed me up in the elevator, she was also doing that. She's pushing on the pain and saying how bad it hurt. Now, what I was focusing on and what I continue to focus on was the way that my dad lived. He lived a life out loud. He was vivacious and joy filled and joy seeking and had a big laugh and a big smile. And I choose to focus on that. I choose to focus on how he died well, on how he died surrounded by his family, on how he knew he was loved, how he took his last breath with my mom, my sister, and I. And do I have emotions around that? Yes, of course I do. Absolutely, I do. Is it going to take time for me to heal from this? Yeah. Also, that's of course. Am I going to suffer? The answer is no, I will not. I will allow myself to feel and experience the grief. But here's what research tells us, and you can listen to or look up any neuroscience or psychiatry or therapy or counseling, and you will find the same information that I'm going to share with you now, which is this: even the toughest emotions last 90 seconds. And if you allow yourself to fully feel it to its completion, it will be done in 90 seconds. And then from there, you can begin to work on shifting your emotions. So I'm going to say that again because it's really important. Even the toughest emotions last 90 seconds. Now, complex emotions like grief, for example, they're going to take more time to unpack. It's not going to be 90 seconds, one and done. It's going to come in layers. And that's why they talk about waves of grief, because the grief is coming in layers. But that doesn't mean we have to suffer from it. Whether it's grief of a marriage, grief of a job, grief of losing a house or changing a house or moving locations and missing your old location or moving locations and missing your friends, all different forms of grief can flow in your system for 90 seconds if you'll let it. And then here's the really important part. And then you'll want to intentionally shift your emotional state. So there are 4 ways that I'm going to share today that you can easily and quickly shift your emotional state. The 4 ways that I'm going to suggest that you shift your emotional state today, and there's more, but these are the 4 we're going to talk about today, are breath, music, intention, and energy. So, the first way we can shift an emotional state is through the breath. Here's why it works. When we get into the body and out of the head, your body knows what to do. Your body is connected to your higher self. And when you regulate the body using the breath, it begins to tell your brain it's safe for us to calm down. So you can pick any breath pattern that you like. The one that I'm going to suggest today is a breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. And perhaps if you're experiencing a difficult emotion, perhaps it would be supportive to decide, would you like to count breaths, or would you like to focus on the breath and instead set a timer? There's no real benefit to doing one over the other. It just really is what is going to be most supportive to you in this time. So, when you're thinking about the breath, my recommendation would be to try to find a way to breathe for 3 to 5 minutes. So, if you're going to set a timer for 3 to 5 minutes, that's great. I recommend choosing depth over pace at first, meaning you're going to breathe deeply and exhale completely. And then as you get going, if you feel like you want to add some pace, you absolutely can. But start with that depth. That would be my recommendation. So if you're going to breathe for 3 to 5 minutes, I would say you'll probably want to breathe 30 to 40 breaths if you're counting, depending on what feels most supportive for you. You're going to be amazed at what just focusing on your breath does for the body and for your emotional state. It's almost like magic. It almost works so well, you'll wonder why you waited so long to breathe. In fact, let's take a couple deep breaths together right now. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. Let's do two more just like that. Last one. And out. Even if those are the only 3 mindful breaths you take today, I guarantee you already things are shifting in your system. And I really do recommend that 3 to 5 minute range because that's just enough to really, really get you into the parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest state of the nervous system. So that's number one of the 4 ways you can shift your emotional state. And, I'm going to come back in some more episodes and tell you some more ways that you can add breath to your life in ways that are really supportive. And breath is so incredible because there's no barrier to entry. You all breathe. So make that your number one choice. Number two is music. Now, there's a couple schools of thought here, and I'm going to give you both of them, and you get to choose what's right for you. One school of thought is to match your current emotional state with the music that you listen to, and then gradually increase the emotional vibration or the how good the music feels over the next several minutes. So, in that, if you were doing that, you would choose a song that matches how you feel right now. If you're feeling angry, you would choose an angry song. If you're feeling sad, you would choose a sad song. And then you would gradually shift over the music to better feeling music. That's one school of thought, and that absolutely works. Another school of thought is to start with the music that's in the vibration that you want to feel right now, today. This is my favorite way to do it. It's my preferred way. It's not the right way, it's just the way that I prefer. So I have a playlist on Apple Music that I use called High Vibes. If you DM me on Instagram at Brenda Winkle, I will share that playlist with you. I can't tell you how many times I put that playlist on during the days leading up to my dad's death and immediately after. If this was a record, I would have worn it out. And so every time I took a walk, or every time I walked from my hotel to my parents' apartment, or every time I walked Bentley, I had that playlist going for the entire month of August. And let me tell you, it works. It really, really works. And it felt good. And it reminded me that life was going on, even though sometimes life felt like it was coming to a standstill for us. It felt sometimes like life was moving around and we were just in a holding pattern. And this playlist just felt so good and reminded me that that was just in my head. And so several times a day, it wasn't like it was one time a day I needed the energy shift. I needed it multiple times a day. And so I would just have it my AirPods in my pocket. So every time I walked outside or any place, even down the hall, I would be playing a song from that playlist. I highly recommend it. If you have songs that you love, that you would be willing to share with me, oh my gosh, I would be so grateful. Could you please email me your favorite feel good songs at brenda@brendawinkle.com? You can just email me the titles or the YouTube links or the Spotify links or the Apple Music links, any which way, and I'll add it to my playlist. And you can also DM me over on Instagram at Brenda Winkle. So in music, just to do a quick recap, you can either match your current energy and then shift to a better feeling kind of energy in the music, or you can choose to start with the way you want to feel. And that is my favorite way. That leads us to number 3. The third way that you can shift your emotional state is by using your intention. This is really impactful because we live in a universe based on intention. You get what you intend. Have you ever heard the term of a self-fulfilling prophecy? That's exactly what this is talking about. When we have self-fulfilling prophecies, what we're saying is that you have brought something into your experience because of the amount of energy and emotion behind it. The same thing can happen when you are mindful and intentional and purposeful around setting an intention. So, if we use my last experience from the month of August as an example, my intention was to prioritize feeling good and to protect my energy at a level 10. So my intention was, as soon as I noticed myself feeling bad, whether that was sad, scared, mad, I would set an intention to feel better. And the really cool thing is there's neuroscience to back this. You have this little clump of cells in your brain called your reticular activating system. Your reticular activating system has one job, and that is to filter out unnecessary information. What this means is that if you set an intention, you are programming your reticular activating system. That's why this works. So, when you decide what it is you want to experience, how you want to feel, what you want the day to go like, your brain starts to seek out things that support those feelings. This is the same system that's in play when you go to a car lot and you go shopping for a particular car, let's say a red Prius. And then when you drive home, all you see are red Priuses. It's your reticular activating system at work. It's not that there are suddenly more red Priuses on the road. It's that the reticular activating system is telling your brain, look for red Priuses. So when you set an intention, you're telling your brain, look for this thing. Now, coming back to the kids on the playground, kid A was intent around experiencing joy and having fun in the playground at recess, even though he skinned his knee. Kid B was intent upon making sure everyone knew how much he was suffering. And then he increased his suffering. Your intention really, really matters. So, your intention could be something simple like, I'm going to have a great day today. Did you ever see Dear Evan Hansen? That's one of my favorite Broadway shows. Oh my gosh, I loved it. Dear Evan Hansen, today is going to be a good day. And here's why. It's the same thing when you're setting an intention. Your intention could be as broad as having a good day. It could be about segmenting time, like I'm going to spend this hour doing this task. It could be, I want to feel this way. I want to feel more love today. I'm going to notice all the ways in which love is being offered to me and all the ways I can offer love to others. So, as you are setting your intention, know that you can shift your intention at any time and you can use intentions to shift your emotional state, which leads us to number 4, energy. Energy is everything. Dr. Joe Dispenza tells us that 99.999% of you is energy. And of the 0.001% of you that's matter, most of that is water. So when we think about energy, let's bring it back to electricity. Okay. So energy goes where attention flows. So, what this means is where you're placing your attention, what you are noticing, is what you're getting more of in your experience. So, if you want to feel better, what are some things you can notice that make you feel better? And then when we're talking about energy, this is really, really important. So, if you're multitasking, invitation to come back to me right now. If you notice that you're not feeling your best, whether that's physically, like in your body, maybe you're feeling depleted or tired or too hungry or tense, or in your emotional body, if you notice yourself feeling negative or fear or lack or scarcity, or anger, that is a really important indicator that you have an opportunity to shift your energy. And you can shift your energy by shifting your emotional state. And you can do that with the breath that we talked about, the music that we talked about, setting your intention, and then noticing in your energetic body what adds energy to you. What kinds of things fuel you? And what kind of things deplete you. This is a really important thing to get dialed in on. And it's also going to take some time, especially if you're brand new at this. If you've never thought about your energy before, give yourself some time and grace as you get used to really tapping into what makes me feel really good. Let me give you an example. I know that one of the fastest ways I can shift energy is through movement. So when I notice that I'm having a feeling state that I'm not particularly enjoying, or I'm noticing that my body's not feeling as good as it could, I will add movement. Most often, it will be something that's really low hanging fruit, like I'll take a walk, or I'll just walk around the neighborhood. Another fun thing can be to dance it out because dancing shifts energy somatically in the body. When we talk about somatics, soma is the Greek word for body. So, somatics, the process of somatics, is getting into the body to shift the energy. If you've heard of the book The Body Keeps the Score, this whole book was built around the concept of somatics. And we do tend to store emotions and energy in our muscles, in our joints, in our soma, in the body. So when you create movement, you're helping the body to release those stored emotions and energy. Another thing that can be really helpful to do is to add sound. So, the thing about somatic movement is it can be choreographed. Like you could actually do a dance routine and get some really good benefits from doing that. You could just take a regular walk and get some really good benefits from doing that. The other thing that I'm going to give you an invitation to do is just to ask yourself, how does my body want to move right now? And it's not going to necessarily be pretty. It's not necessarily going to look graceful, but just being curious, like, how does your body want to move right now? As soon as I asked myself that, my spine decided that it would feel really good to create some shape. And so as I'm sitting here right now, my spine is creating some S shapes as I just tip one shoulder towards one hip and then move the other shoulder towards the other hip. And if you ask your body, maybe placing a hand on your heart and a hand on your belly, how it would like to move to release any pent up energy, you're almost always going to get an answer. But again, it's not going to be something that you're going to be like, I'm going to do this dance routine. It's going to be like twisting or bending or stretching, or maybe something really primal, like you'll want to do some crawling. Same thing with sound. If you ask your body what sound it wants to make, it might do something beautiful like sing, but it might not. It might sigh or groan or yell or scream or just make some weird noises. Invitation to just let yourself move the energy in any way that feels good. We know that there are three things that move energy from the body. And I know this as a somatic coach. I am a certified somatic coach, certified through Pause Breathwork. And that's where I also got my breathwork certification. And we know that energy moves in the body through breath, through sound, and through movement. And so, invitation to get really curious around what that might look like for you? And how much permission could you give yourself to just do the things that you're having an impulse to do? So, those were the four ways that we talked about shifting an emotional state: breath, music, intention, and energy. Now, let's talk about the energetic merge. An energetic merge is often mistaken as a kind of empathy, but it's not. The energetic merge is where you actually merge energy and emotionality with another person. So let me tell you a story. This week I am in Cleveland at my friend Megan's house. Well, it's actually Chagrin Falls, but I was recognizing after a phone call on Friday last week that I was very depleted, which is understandable. I mean, after all the family was in town, my dad's funeral, the friends were in town. It was beautiful. And I'm so incredibly grateful for it. And I was depleted. I needed some rest. After I noticed that depletion in my system, I decided that I wasn't responsible if I held my second chapter call and breathwork this week. And so I rescheduled them. And I didn't give too much thought to what that really meant until yesterday. So, yesterday, a friend reached out who had just dropped off her daughter to college for the first time. They live in Canada, and my friend lives in Calgary, and she dropped her daughter off in Victoria, which is all the way across the country. And when I was talking to her, I felt the beginnings of an energetic merge. Here's what it is. Let's see if this is familiar to you. Have you ever been speaking to somebody who's having an emotional experience and maybe they're sad about something or they're going through a change and they are either feeling a lump in their throat or they're beginning to cry and you get a lump in your throat and you also cry? Conventional wisdom would say this is empathy, but it's not. It's an energetic merge. You are merging your emotionality and your energy with that other person. It's not empathy. It's not kind. It's not helpful. It actually diminishes your capacity to hold space for that other person because you're kind of climbing in after them. And so, if you give up your resourcing, your agency, your sovereignty to meet someone in the emotional state where they are, you are giving away a tremendous amount of power. And if you do that, you're also letting that energy and emotionality make decisions for you, whether those are financial decisions in your business, financial decisions in your home, decisions in your relationships. And here's the thing, that's not clean. So, when we're talking about the energetic merge, this is one other thing that can really come up for us as people who have high empathy and high compassion. And it's really important that we know how to shift our emotional state so that we can prevent that energetic merge. And this is one of the things that I'm going to be really dialing into at the Energetic Mastery Retreat. In fact, we've got most of day 2 around how to maintain your own sovereignty and agency while maintaining compassion and empathy without merging. And we're going to be talking about how to identify an energetic projection where you might be projecting on somebody or somebody might be projecting on you. Because as an empathetic or an empathic entrepreneur, knowing the difference between what is you and you alone and what is you merged with someone else's energy is absolutely essential. And it's one of the most difficult things that an empath can learn. So, even if this is your very first time thinking about this stuff, and if all you do right now is notice when it happens, that's going to be a success. It does take some specific instruction and practice to get really good at maintaining your agency and sovereignty. So, again, if all you do right now is notice that, oh, is this interesting? I'm merging with somebody else. That is going to be considered a victory in my book. And then if you want to go deeper and you want to really hone in on this so that you can maintain your own energy and your own agency and sovereignty, come to the Energetic Mastery Retreat in Beaverton, Oregon, September 24th through 28th. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's the website is brendawinkle.com/energetic in case you're a listener who doesn't check the show notes. I'm so excited about this particular part of the workshop. of the retreat because this is going to have such a huge impact on your business, on your bottom line, on your ability to generate income. Because here's the thing, your business is a direct reflection of your energy. And if your energy is merged with someone else's, even if you really love that someone else, that is not necessarily going to be the most aligned energy. Now, one of the questions that people are asking me is, do I have to own a business to attend the retreat? And the answer is no, you don't have to own a business. However, I would invite you to bring your entrepreneurial spirit to the retreat because at the retreat, we're going to be talking about how you can apply the concepts of the power framework that I developed, especially for empathic entrepreneurs, to your business and your life. Power is an acronym that stands for presence, optimize, wisdom, evaluate, and renew. And the power framework is something that I came up with over the last 15 years of working with empaths and intuitives and have really refined it to be working with empathic entrepreneurs. And I used this framework all day, every day as I was navigating what was happening with my dad and my family. I'm so excited to tell you it works. It really, really, really works. And so that's really the basis of the retreat, but the power framework is the basis of the retreat. But one whole day is going to be on maintaining your energetic sovereignty. And so that's going to actually fall into three or four, excuse me, four of the powers. It's going to fall into presence because we're going to be talking about how to increase and decrease the size of your energetic field, why you would want a bigger field or a smaller field. And we'll be talking about how to actually do that. We'll also be talking about the power of presence in the present moment and what that can do for you. And then when we talk about the O for optimize, we're going to be talking about ways that you can optimize your energy, ways that you can optimize your empathy. And so that's going to be so, so fun and really impactful. I've got some beautiful workshops for that, including something that Jeffrey Allen, who's a famous energy healer, developed called the permission rose, where you'll actually be able to, by the end of this retreat, to give people permission to get closer to your energetic field or farther from your energetic field. And that's going to be really fun. We're going to be practicing with actual roses on each other so that we can feel what it's like in a physical way and then take it into a more energetic way. And of course, the W for wisdom is knowing when you're taking on things that aren't yours, and then knowing what to do when you've taken on something that's not yours. And then the E for evaluate is evaluating your environment, evaluating your situation, so that you can actually maximize any environment, even if it's not yours. Like, let's say, for example, you're going to a coffee shop to work. At this energetic mastery retreat, I'm going to teach you how you can maximize and evaluate your environment right around that coffee shop so that you can get the most aligned, most effective, most soul centered work done, even in an environment that's not exclusively yours. So, anyway, I went off on a little tangent there, but I'm just so excited about this retreat. I can't wait. So, Beaverton, Oregon is a suburb of Portland, Oregon. And one of the things about Portland that I don't know if you know, there are two big things there in Washington Park that were designed to save different kinds of plants during the World Wars. One is the International Test Rose Garden, which you probably have heard about, and the other is Hoyt Arboretum. Now, the International Test Rose Garden is something that we'll be visiting during our time in the retreat. But another place that we're going to visit is the Redwood Deck at Hoyt Arboretum. You can Google it, it's incredible. And so in Hoyt Arboretum, there are different groves of various trees, oak trees, birch trees, Norwegian spruce, and redwoods. And I'm only naming four. It's a huge arboretum. And we're going to be going to the redwood area and doing some meditations and breath work among the redwoods. It's going to be absolutely incredible. If you've never had a chance to be around a redwood, this is your chance. There's something so healing from being around them. And they're really interesting trees. Their roots don't go down very far, they go wide, they connect to one another. just like we connect to one another. And I think that there's just something so poetic about that. So I'm excited to bring that into the retreat, bring that idea of connection into the retreat. One of the things that I'm really focusing on right now, even though it's not 2025 yet, but I'm shifting my focus right now. My word for 2024 was mystery. And my focus for 2025 is going to be connection. And so I'm not giving up on the mystery, but I'm also bringing in connection and thinking about the ways that we connect to one another, the ways that we can connect to each other, to our greater universe, to ourselves, to our higher selves. And so that's part of why this is really important coming into the energetic mastery retreat. So, this retreat is for anybody who identifies as having a high level of empathy and compassion, and either has an entrepreneurial spirit and wants to start a business or owns a business. If you have no interest in owning a business, I don't think I would necessarily recommend this for you because we're going to be talking about a lot of the ways that empathy can impact your business and ways that you can use empathy as a superpower. I was talking with somebody not too long ago, and she was saying, being an empath sucks. She was just so exhausted and depleted by taking on and being aware of all the emotions of everybody around her. And that really hit for me because I remember a time in my life when I felt like being an empath really sucks. But let me tell you, it doesn't have to. It can be the biggest gift, the biggest superpower that you've ever experienced. And that's a big part of the reason why I developed this power framework is because my belief is that as someone with a high level of empathy and compassion, you have something really special to contribute. And if you feel like being an empath sucks, you won't use your empathy. You won't use your own power. So I want to help you use that power so that you can go out into the world and do the thing that you're here to do. Because I know there's something really special that you have to offer. And if you look at the percentage of people who are empaths in the world, it's a very, very small percentage, which is partly why I know we have something so, so, so special. And the time is now for you to capitalize on this because, you can feel it. I know you can. The energy is shifting, and we need you in leadership. We need you owning companies. We need you with bigger impact and bigger income so that your dollars can change the face of the planet when you hire people, when you create ecosystems, when you create companies and initiatives that are going to do all kinds of things like, I don't even want to go into all the kinds of things. It's limitless, but here's what I know. We need you. We need your empathic abilities. We need your compassion. And I love you. I am here for you. DM me with any questions that you have. And if you loved this episode, would you please give it a rating and review and share it with a friend? Thank you so much for listening. And next week on the podcast, be sure you tune in because I have Tiffany Carter, podcast host of Project Me with Tiffany Carter, one of the top 5 podcasts in the world, on the podcast. So be sure that you've subscribed if you haven't yet. Thank you so much for listening. Bye for now. Until next time.